Disrupting Japan, Episode 12. Welcome to Disrupting Japan, straight talk from Japan's most successful entrepreneurs. I'm Tim Romero, and thanks for listening. Today we sit down and talk to Hiroshi Asaeda, founder of Beatrobo, and we chat about music sharing, robot avatars, maid-themed hair salons, and how getting caught in between two cultures can give an entrepreneur a real edge. In the interview, you can hear but not see Hiro and I handling these plug air devices. So to help you visualize what's going to be going on, but without giving too much away, the plug air are small plastic devices that plug into an iPhone's headphone jack. They range in size from as small as a fingernail to about 5 centimeters. They come in all kinds of colors, and they're shaped anything from simple squares to cute robot-looking things. Now, before we get to the interview, I want to share an insight with you. Or more accurately, I suppose, an insight about an insight. A number of guests, and some others as well, have told me that Japanese feel more comfortable speaking directly, openly, and honestly when speaking English than they do when speaking Japanese. Now, I had developed a wonderful theory about how the language we speak affects our thinking and how being exposed to different languages can change the way you approach problems, and, well, there may be some truth to that, but I realized that wasn't the main thing. The fact of the matter is when you're speaking in a second language, you have no choice but to be direct. Outside your native language, you really can't do subtle nuance or evasion or cleverly change the question with a joke. So you pretty much just have to answer the damn question as best you can. But hey, that makes for some great interviews. So let's get right to this one.
Okay, ready to get started?
Yep.
So cheers.
Cheers.
So I'm sitting here with Hiro Asaeda of Beatrobo. And it is a pretty cool music playlist sharing with awesome little robot avatars, but you're going to be able to explain this much better than I can. So can you give everyone an introduction to what Beatrobo is?
Yeah. So our company is Beatrobo. What we are focusing now is actually another product.
Okay.
So
and this is the plug air?
Yes, that's plug air. But our company is still Beatrobo because we started with that, and
that's a great name.
We actually love the concept.
Well, let's talk about what plug air is.
Okay, so plug air is physical gadget. It's a technology that we have invented 2 years ago. The concept is that you just plug it into your phone, and you could get music, or you could get video, or you could get any kind of digital content.
So this is unfortunately audio only, but I'm sitting here staring at a half dozen of these little devices, and they're just a small, couple of centimeter cube, 1 centimeter cube that plug into the phone jack of an iPhone or an Android device, right? Mm-hmm. That's awesome. And is there?
Well, it all works on the iPhone. So,
oh, okay.
Yeah. So this is how it works. There's an app right here, and you just plug it in. You snap it in.
Right.
And that's all you need to do. So the content will load inside the phone. It's done. Now you get like a whole album of like music, songs, links, PDF files, all this stuff.
Now I take it this is more than just a removable drive of sorts, right? So I mean, I've loaded up this little, and we'll put a picture up on the website so everyone knows what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So if I load a video or a set of songs onto this, I can share it with as many people as I want, or do I have to have the device connected to the phone to have it work?
Yeah, so it's a really good question. The content provider can control how they want to distribute it.
Oh, okay.
So, like, if you think it as a CD, CDs are copyable. You can like give it to somebody else and share it as much as you want. If you make it that way, it will work that way. So I can plug it into mine, get 10 songs, plug it into yours, give you 10 songs.
The content can be bound to the physical device, or it can be just a matter of distribution.
Exactly. So
awesome.
The controllable thing is I can have 10 songs, you can have 3 songs. Or the people I share will get 3 songs. Or you get 10 songs, but you can only listen to it for 3 days.
Right.
Like,
and You just plug in. There's no password, no logins. It just connects.
That's the concept.
It's really cool, and audio podcasts can't really do it justice. So we'll have to get everyone onto the site and to check this out. But one thing I want your opinion on: do you think people connect more with physical goods in a digital age? Because I've just got a feeling if someone, we all have dozens of our friends sharing videos with us on Facebook every day. But we don't watch them. At least I don't. But I've got a feeling if someone handed me this physical device and said, "Oh, you've got to watch this, put it into your phone," I think I'd do it.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's the reaction you're seeing as well?
Yeah, so it's like if it's 1-to-1 and you're already friends and you're already on Facebook and you already know the account and you already use the same app, that's when it's easier. That's why social networks are so strong, right? It's like, oh, we don't have to think about the connection of people. What I could do here is that even if I don't know the person's email address, or if I even don't know their name, I can give this to them and they can get it.
Now, you've been working with Lawson's,
yes,
which is one of the largest convenience store chains here in Japan. How have they been using this technology? Because that's obviously taking it a step beyond the two friends sharing playlists.
Lawson HMV Entertainment runs Lawson Ticket, the ticket master of Japan. Why we partner with them is because they have the channel to distribute physical content.
Yeah. What exactly is going through that channel now? How are they distributing these? How are they using it?
One big case study is partnering with a concert. Lawson was in charge of distributing the concert tickets to the fans when they buy it. So we partnered with one of the largest bands known in Japan, which is called TM Network. And every person buying, when a person buys a ticket, we gave a plug air to them as an exclusive giveaway.
Okay. The plug air device contained a couple of songs?
They contained a message from the band, special video, reviewing all the music that's going to be played, and they also had like all these. They updated that, days before and after the concert.
Oh,
so the special thing about Plug Air is that we can update the cloud side, which would actually change what's inside the gadget.
All right. Okay. So it's updating not only what's on the phone, but what's stored inside the physical device as well. That's really cool. Well, actually, let's back up a bit, because you started, before the Lawson's arrangement, you did an Indiegogo campaign.
Yes.
With Linkin Park.
Yes. Using
this device.
Yes.
And there's got to be a story behind that.
So we actually did a project together before that.
Really?
So they were the headliner for Summer Sonic in Japan in 2013. It was like Metallica and Linkin Park. Well, like I was at our investors' office one day,
right?
Like doing some a talk at an event, and the business guy, those like the vice president kind of guys were like visiting Japan for Summer Sonic, but was meeting people in the startup industry.
Okay.
So I was there, and like my investor was like, "Hey, Hiro, come over. I remember you speak English. This guy is the VP of Linkin Park." I was like, "Oh, I know that band."
Yeah. And how big was your company at that point?
It's like 5-6 people.
Cool.
And I always had one of my prototypes because we never.
Yes.
It wasn't in the mass production or anything. We had like 2 devices working that we made handmade, and we printed out with a 3D printer. So like we did that and we showed it, and they got excited. It's like, oh, this is the next USB. They like understood it so quickly. I was even surprised. I was like, why do you even understand that so quickly? That was like my first question I did to them. The interaction, the physical concept, the fans wanting something to take home after the concert.
So you suddenly had to go from a handful of handmade prototypes into production in how long?
2 months.
2 months.
It's a nightmare. It was I was okay. I was like, oh, let's do it. Let's sell it. Oh, we just need to make 5,000 of these. Like, no, that's not what was happening. It's like, where are we going to make this first? We need to go to China. Like, that's.
So what did you do? Did you get on the internet? Did you get on a plane? How do you source this stuff?
When we were working on this, the circuit board and stuff,
Right.
like we had one company who was the agent. We had an agency that was providing the chips, and we were like, "Hey, do you know any company that you can trust?"
Yeah.
And they were like, "Oh yeah, we have one company that we work together and we buy things from them." And it was like, "Oh, let's go meet them." So like no English is going on, but we decided to trust them and order the units.
And how did the project turn out?
It actually was successful.
That's what I hear.
It was like 5 lucky things like going on at the same time. Everybody told us like, oh, if we mess up on the mold, it'll take like another 2 weeks to rebuild the mold and
But
stuff.
that's with every challenging project, isn't it? There's 20 things have to go right to make it, to pull it off, and one thing has to go wrong to screw it up.
Yeah. So the lucky thing happened. Everything went well.
Yeah.
Plus, we were, I should say, a total tech web startup. So it was like, oh, we could just launch it, and if something's wrong, we'll just work 24 hours and fix the bug. Like, that was how we used to work. Now we do hardware. It's like,
Yeah, so hardware is a little different. You can't just
so different.
push a patch out, yeah.
That's what we tried to do. And it was like, oh, okay, one mistake, and we'll wait another 3 weeks for the fix.
Right.
Was like what we found out. So
I think that having that over your head makes you pay more attention to quality and probably results in a much better product in the end.
yes.
Let's see, Beatrobo, you founded in 2012, right? And
Yes.
you pretty much from the get-go, you were aggressively going global.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
You were at the Consumer Electronics Show
Yes.
in the States your first year. And why did you decide to spend the money and make the effort to like go after the U.S. market instead of doing what, frankly, most Japanese companies do, which is focus on the easier sells here in Japan?
My passion only starts from something that nobody else but I would or could do.
Okay.
So it's like, oh yeah, let's make some Japanese edition of Uber, right?
Right.
It's like, oh yeah, like somebody else could do it. So I never get excited when you can actually see what's going to happen.
But I think that's a really useful insight, I think, to a lot of people who want to start up companies is look at whatever collection of skills you as an individual have. You might be good at 3 different things and find out where they overlap, and that's the company you should start, right?
If you have some experience, it's way more easier for you to actually make it successful. But my passion was, I need to accomplish something that's worth betting my life. So I'm in this really strange position. My parents are both Japanese. They're pure Japanese. So I speak English the best in our family, probably. I grew up in New York until I was 12. I came back to Japan. You know, I'm treated as American, right? Even if I speak Japanese. If I go to America, I'm treated as a Japanese. So like I was like neither of them. So I was like the person in the middle, like trying to adjust to both sides. But the interesting part was that there also is a value there. Finding out if I stand in the middle, it's like, oh, this is what I could see. There's a point of view that nobody could.
It's unique. Yeah, something. It's an interesting point because I think foreigners or expatriates, people who've moved to a different country, are uniquely suited to spotting those differences, to spotting those opportunities. They have a different perspective. In San Francisco, huge number of founders are from outside the U.S. There's a lot of foreigners in the Japanese startup scene that are helping drive it. And so that's how you found your unique value?
I first thought I was lost, or I thought I was not needed by anybody. So I was like, oh, I need to be Japanese. I need to be a pure Japanese. Or I need to try to be an American and like start living in the U.S. and not speak Japanese at all.
And neither one of those worked out too well?
Well, that didn't make me happy.
All right.
One thing that I liked the most was Nintendo.
Okay. Tough to make a career of.
So it's like, what is something that is in the global market, but started in Japan and has a Japanese identity? It works around the world. For example, there is no tutorial for Super Mario.
Okay.
But on the stage 1-1, the first 3 screens is like a tutorial.
Oh, okay. All right.
So how it starts? Mario starts from the bottom left, which means you can't walk to the left. Imagine if Mario starts
So
from the middle.
I see what you mean. Like really well thought out things
Yes.
that you don't notice.
Yes.
Unless you know what you're looking for, right?
It was so well designed, and it works not just for Japanese people, right? It works for everyone.
Yeah, it's universal. Yeah.
So I wanted to make something that becomes universal, but from the heart of a Japanese mindset. So I speak English like this, but I'm like a Japanese guy, and who loves Japan so much.
Yeah. Oh, I get it, man. So this makes more sense. The simplicity of this device I have in my hand.
Yes.
It's obvious what you do with it. You put it in the headphone jack.
Yes.
And then what I saw happening on the screen was intuitive, obvious, needs no explanation action. All right.
That's the thing that, I'm having fun. It's like, oh, yeah, I can give a USB stick to my grandma. She will not use it. I will send a Dropbox link to my grandma. She will not use it. If I give this and say, just plug it in,
She will.
she will.
Awesome. Well, listen, I mean, before you founded Beatrobo,
Yep.
you had a couple
Yes.
of virtual reality companies you were involved with, right? So was this a kind of a natural transition for you?
Yes and no. I was my first company was a hair salon.
Yeah, that was the maid themed
Yes,
hair salon.
exactly.
Actually, let's talk about that one for
Sure.
a minute. That's I would be remiss if I didn't ask you a couple of questions about that.
So it was when I was 22. It was 2005. I was in graduate school talking with my friends, and we were like, we don't want to work. That's
why you're in graduate school.
It's like very honestly, it's not being any positive way. It's like, why can't we just not work and like play games for the rest of our lives?
What is a maid-themed hair salon? I mean, I've got a picture in my mind, but I have no idea how accurate that picture is.
So it started from my complex thing. So I had like very different hairstyles all the time when I was in college. So I had like an afro hair. I did.
Okay.
I did have an afro hair.
I
used to like
that, but okay.
I'll show you to you later. So I like did like street dance and stuff. So I had like many hairstyles. So I remember those days when I was at a hair salon and the stylists are so fashion people. Like it was so uncomfortable for me because they talk about the newest, hip hop songs, whatever.
Right.
And I never listened to them. I like to play games, or I like to read comics. But if I talk about that, they'll treat me as a dork. So I pretend that
To be hip.
Yeah. And I was like, this is why nerds and geeks don't like haircuts.
All right. I see where you're going with this.
So I was like, okay, let's make a one that has a concept where it's comfortable. So it's like, a place where you could talk about comics, mangas, animes. And you get a haircut.
And you get a haircut.
And you're comfortable. Then we start talking it was like brainstorming. It's like, that needs to be an Akihabara.
Yeah.
Akiba.
Yeah.
Yes, if you lived in your hometown the whole time, you'll have your favorite barber and you'll go there like for 30 years, 40 years. But if you move out, if you live somewhere else and you move into Tokyo, the toughest thing is to find your dentist and your hairstylist.
All right.
Okay, that's when people give up and go to the closest barber from your house and you don't talk or you sleep. Or you go to the $10 haircut. So, that's like Akihabara, men, geeks, nerds, manga, anime. Okay, we need a woman stylist wearing a maid costume so people could joke it
Yeah.
and make a reason saying, I'm just joking around.
Yeah, but you got to get your hair cut somewhere.
Yeah.
So what was the reception? What was the reaction? What did people think of it?
It worked from the first month. So the cool thing about the business,
It's still in operation?
it's in the 10th anniversary.
Oh, congratulations. That's awesome.
Yes, it's in the 10th anniversary. It's been very successful. It's one of the oldest maid-style businesses in Akihabara.
Do you have imitators now? Or are there other maid hairstylists?
There were. We actually have a trademark
Oh my God.
maid hair salon.
Boy, I had no idea this was a business niche. Okay.
Yeah.
But you have started a series of companies.
Yes.
I started my first company in Japan back in 1998. And the attitude towards startups was totally different. It's much more accepting now. I work with a lot of students, especially, who say they want to start a startup, they want to be an entrepreneur. but most don't. So you've had a string of companies. What do you think keeps most people back?
Well, what I felt when I first one was like you're treated as a loser if you don't get hired by a good company.
So you think that a lot of people think that you started a startup because you couldn't get hired anywhere else?
Yeah.
Really? Even do you think that's still true now?
I mean, well, you're treated as like one of the crazy people.
Okay.
You know, the awkward, like the social people will have friends, will have girlfriends, hang out with each other, go to sports, go on a trip, go to barbecue, go to snowboarding, whatever.
So you think there's still a little bit of a stigma about...
I think there is.
Okay.
I don't know. Things have changed. I've been in the startup thing for 10 years.
Yeah.
I'm getting to become the older guy. I go meet people, you meet your college friends once in a while, right?
Right.
Like you can't talk with them in the same way.
What's different?
I don't know. When they talk about salary, they talk about how much they're paid. When you talk about salary, you talk about how much you pay, right?
Yeah, okay. That's true. You're on the other side of
Payday.
That. Yeah.
Payday is like, a scary thing.
Well, I remember when Digital Garage bought my first company, I would still get stressed out around payday, just instinctively. It took me like 3 months to realize, like, oh, wait, no. Someone else is paying the salary. I don't have to worry. But yeah, for years it was, oh my God, payday's coming up in 2 weeks. I better go out and sell something. Yeah.
For the students, I think it's much more easier because there are more successful people. I think like Taizo Son is one of like the most successful people.
Oh, absolutely.
Meaning a guy who never worked in a company and is still living.
Well, now you went through the Movida incubator, didn't you?
Yes.
Okay, what did you think of that?
I liked Taizo-san.
Yeah.
So I respect people who I want to be. So
Okay.
It's like I never worked in a company before. Taizo is now like 40, whatever, I forgot his age, but he's been doing this his whole life, and now he's like one of the richest people, right?
So is he is he personally involved in the incubator companies?
I don't know for the last year or so, but he's always like, what do you call it, the visionary.
That's refreshing to hear. So many of the incubators and almost all of the VCs in Japan are dominated by finance guys. Very few startup guys or startup girls that are part of these groups. It's refreshing to hear that he is hands-on that way.
He's not hands-on.
He's not?
I said he's a visionary.
Oh, okay, I see.
So he leads the whole community. He leads the passion. He will always keep on moving forward.
Well, what was the most valuable thing you got out of that incubator?
Movida, I actually liked that they were different. They were like most different, but they were the most different compared to any VC. They weren't running for money. They were trying to build an ecosystem.
So he was, careful in assembling a portfolio of companies? Were they complementary or...?
They said they wanted to be the Silicon Valley of Asia or something.
Okay. But everybody says that.
Yeah, that didn't affect me in any way,
Yeah.
honestly. The way to think was closer to my idea. Like, to become global from the beginning, to not think about Japan. To make something big, you need to think big.
So it was very supportive and people who understand big dreams and big visions.
Yes.
The fact that you've started several startups here in Japan, what advice do you have for young Japanese who want to start a startup now?
Why do they want to do a startup?
That's a very good question.
Like,
I think a lot of them don't know.
I'm actually interested in what they would say. I mean, you're never safe. You're not rich for a couple of years where you could make enough money and enjoy your life.
Yeah.
You'll have no Saturdays and Sundays.
What's the biggest surprise that new founders face? How is the reality different from the image of entrepreneurship in people's heads?
It's like a music band.
Yeah?
It's like, oh yeah, I know. Well, Linkin Park, which is our, I'll just say that because it's our client.
Yeah,
but it's like, oh
That's
yeah,
awesome.
Lady Gaga, Michael Jackson. Yeah, I can sing better than him. But there's like a million bands who think that way. But there's only one Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
Right? So I think that's how startups work as well. It's like, yeah, that's Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg. Yeah, he's as young as me. I can do better than him.
So they think startups are like the Social Network movie.
Yeah. But it's the thing. The thing is, there are successful companies, but there probably is like another million companies who try to do Facebook.
I think that's a really
them.
good point. I mean, it's like music or athletes or anything like that. People see the successful 1% or half of 1% or whatever the number is and think, oh, that's me.
Yeah. And then you could think you could become them, but there are like a decent amount of people who failed and that you will never know or never see.
And so you think that's because just a lot of people underestimate the amount of behind-the-scenes work, or is it just a numbers game that people don't see until they're in the middle of it?
I think nobody sees what's in between. They only see the successful things, and after there's a book out, you only see like the story that's made up after the success.
Yeah, and I've always kind of wondered about some of those stories. It's
It's like, I knew that was coming. Like, of course not. If somebody wants to do a startup, I would tell them not to make a company, but to think about something they want to accomplish. And if a company is a solution for that, you should make a company. So,
that makes a lot of sense. So the company is a means to an end. It's not the end.
It's not the end. You can become a CEO by just paying $3,000 to the Japanese government.
Yep.
And you're a shacho.
And so this is the reason you're not opening up 10 maid cafes all over.
Exactly. So that was when I was in college, graduate school. So I was like, do I want to do this for the rest of my life? Yes, I do have the passion and I do have the vision. I even thought of making a school.
A school?
Yes.
For
introvert hairstylists.
Okay. Boy, you're just a niche guy, aren't you? You're just like, find that vertical.
So it's like we'll have our maid hair salons everywhere around Japan. It wasn't something that I thought I could do something more. Yeah. Something bigger.
You've been very successful selling overseas. Do you have any advice for Japanese companies who want to go global, who want to address foreign markets?
I would say start global from the beginning because it's really, really tough to change after. We started from like 3 Japanese people. We added 3 more Japanese people. And like when it comes to that stage, it turns into something like, why do I have to speak English?
Well, you guys are quite international now, right?
Yes. So the guy that joined after that was a Finnish guy. Which is Antti, who is our COO. And if we add like 3 more Japanese people who only speak Japanese, like people will start making fun of people speaking English.
Right.
That happens. So it's like, hey, why do I have to speak English? Like,
but now they're forced to, or they can't get the work done.
We forced our culture to become global. Then we hired a Taiwanese girl. Then we hired an Indonesian guy. Yes, we have to work on the communication all the time, but basically we try to talk in English. And that culture will actually bring more global-minded people, international-minded people into the company. But this is like still trying.
No, but that makes sense. I mean, just I think it goes back to the idea you were saying before that you being sort of between 2 cultures, America and Japan, kind of gave you a different insight, different way of looking at things. Having that international staff gives your whole company a slightly different way of looking at things and will open it up to some new insights.
For people who hasn't started their company yet, I would recommend them to start global. Our company is a Delaware company.
Right.
So we could get investment from the largest VCs in 5 years.
But your current investors are mostly
from
Japanese?
Japan, yes.
All Japanese?
All Japanese, but they signed an English contract.
Ah, good for you.
Our Series A contract is a 200-page English contract. So when they do due diligence, even Sequoia Capital can read our contract in English. So,
oh man, way to go!
They won't be like, I don't want to be involved in Japanese stuff and translating all these Japanese laws into like using a lawyer. So
the Japanese companies did they push back and say we want Japanese contracts?
Of course,
but not hard enough so that they didn't sign it.
I said no.
All right.
I said no. We have to do this
And these are not like small VCs. You've got some really good names on your investor list.
They're very helpful as well.
Before we wrap up, do you have any questions you want to ask me or another topic you want to talk about that we haven't covered yet?
What makes you happy to live in Japan? Let me tell you just about the reason, because I think rather than hiring people in the US today, I see so many talented people in Japan. We are currently successful in hiring them, and we are actually being able to change it.
I think there is, in fact, I'll send you a link. I wrote an article about this exact subject in AppMark IT a few months ago, saying that right now, on average, programmers in Japan produce higher quality software than programmers in San Francisco. And that got a lot of notice, let's say. But I stand by it totally. But the reason that I stay in Japan, I like Japan, is it's complicated. I like to say it's a love-hate relationship with Japan. You know, I've been here over 20 years.
Longer than me.
And I've thought about moving back to San Francisco a number of times. But every time I'm about to pack up, some interesting new project pops up, and there's just some exciting thing that's happening, and I decide to stay a few more years. And, you know, I've started 4 companies here, and maybe it's a lot of what you were talking about before. The secret to success is finding that overlap of skills you have. Over the years, one of those overlapping skills of mine has been understanding the Japanese market and selling new technology in Japan. It's a lot of fun. I think Japan has got this wonderful commitment that customers and vendors have to each other that the U.S. has kind of lost a bit. And I think especially recently, with the emphasis on minimum viable product and quick pivoting, you've got developers and things who don't even think about the customers. And
I basically, you know, I'm Japanese, so I get all the context of what you're saying. What I like about Japan is about the efficiency. The people are the customer service is high level because the customers are at least in somewhat high level. Do you know when you get on Narita Express? I mean the bus, the limousine bus from Narita, they put all your stuff in, and when the bus leaves, they all bow. When you're on the plane, the people, the staffs will be waving, saying goodbye to you. And that's a rule.
There's one thing, it just occurred to me, but I mean, I've thought it for years, that I do deeply, deeply admire about Japanese culture and society is there is this unwavering commitment to excellence, of being a little bit better and getting it just right. Friends of mine they were out in Western Japan because his wife is from there. And there's this little soba shop in this town. And the guy's been making soba and running this restaurant there for the last 60 years. Sometimes he makes the soba and it's not up to his quality, and he doesn't open for the day. And there's a sign in front of the store saying, "Sorry, it didn't turn out today. Come back tomorrow." Which is just amazing. I love that. That would not happen in any country except for Japan. And it's really good soba, from what I understand.
The perfectionist thing. Yes.
You know,
the craftsmanship.
And commitment to craft, I think, is wonderful in Japan.
Yes, we are a U.S. company. Yes, I speak English. I do want to become one of those Silicon Valley stuff. But, thinking about what will actually work, it might be not the U.S. is what I'm kind of thinking sometimes.
Well, listen, thanks a lot for sitting down with me. I have no idea how I'm going to edit this down to any reasonable length. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much.
And we're back. I found it interesting that Hiro, a Japanese founder who has spent many years in America, and I, an American founder who's spent many years in Japan, admired exactly the same things about Japanese society and business culture. The unwavering commitment to excellence and the mutual commitment that vendors and customers feel for each other. I mentioned an article I wrote where I explain why, on average, Japanese programmers produce higher quality software than their San Francisco counterparts. We don't have time to go through all the details right now, so I'll put a link to it in the show notes. The article's in Japanese, but if there's enough interest, I'll reverse translate it into English and publish it again. If you want to see the links and the resources that Hiro and I talked about during the interview, or get in touch with him on social media, go to disruptingjapan.com, show 012, and you'll find all of that and more in the resource section of the post. Leave a comment and let us know what you think about Beatrobo or about maid-themed hair salons. And if you have an idea on how to improve the show or know someone who we should be talking to, send us an email at feedback@disruptingjapan.com. But most of all, thanks for listening and for your support and for letting people interested in Japanese startups know about Disrupting Japan. This is Tim Romero, and thanks for listening.